Chapter 28. Suspicion. As the days passed, Tally fell into the routines of the smoke. There was something comforting about the exhaustion of hard work. All her life, Tally had been troubled by insomnia, lying awake most nights thinking about arguments she'd had or wanted to have, or things she should have done differently. But hearing the smoke, her mind shut off the moment her head hit the pillow, which wasn't even a pillow, just her new sweater stuffed into a cotton bag. Tally still didn't know how long she was going to stay there. She hadn't come to a decision about whether to activate the pendant, but she knew that thinking about it all the time would drive her crazy, so she decided to put it out of her mind. One day, she might wake up and realize she couldn't stand to live her entire life as an ugly, no matter who it hurt or what it cost. But for the moment, Dr. Cable could wait. Forgetting her troubles was easy in the smoke. Life was much more intense than in the city. She bathed in a river so cold that she had to jump into it screaming. And she ate food pulled from the fire hot enough to burn her tongue, which city food never did. Of course, she missed shampoo that didn't sting her eyes, and flush toilets. She learned to her horror what lanterns were, and mostly med spray. But however blistered her hands became, Tally felt stronger than ever before. She could work all day at the railroad site, then race David and Shay home on hoverboards. Her backpack full of more scrap metal than she could have lifted a month before. She learned from David how to repair her clothes with a needle and thread, how to tell raptors from their prey, and even how to clean fish, which turned out not to be nearly as bad as cutting them up in bio class. The physical beauty of the smoke also cleared her mind of worries. Every day seemed to change the mountain, the sky, the surrounding valleys, making them spectacular in a completely new way. Nature, at least, didn't need an operation to be beautiful. It just was. One morning on the way to the railroad track, David pulled his board up alongside Tally's. He rode silently for a while, taking the familiar turns with his usual grace. Over the last 2 weeks, she learned that his jacket was actually made of leather. Real dead animals. But she had gradually gotten used to the idea. The Smokies hunted, but they were like the Rangers, killing only species that didn't belong in this part of the world, or that had gotten out of control thanks to the Rusty's meddling. With its random patches, the jacket would probably look silly on anyone else, as if growing up here in the wilds allowed him to fuse with the animals that had donated their skins to his clothes, and it probably didn't hurt that he had actually made the jacket himself. He spoke up suddenly.
"I've got a present for you."
A present? Really? By now, Tally understood that nothing in the smoke ever lost its value. Nothing was discarded or given away just because it was old or broken. Everything was repaired, refitted, and recycled. And if one Smoky couldn't put it to use, it was traded to another. Few things were given away lightly.
"Yeah, really."
David angled closer and handed her a small bundle. She unwrapped it, following the familiar route of the stream without looking. It was a pair of gloves, handmade in light brown leather. She shoved the bright city-made wrapping paper into her pocket, then pulled the gloves onto her blistered hands. "Thanks. They fit perfectly." He nodded.
"I made them when I was about your age. They're a little small for me these days."
Tally smiled, wishing she could hug him. When they spread their arms to take a hard turn, she held his hand for a second. Flexing her fingers, Tally found that the gloves were soft and pliant. The palms worn pale from years of use. White lines across the finger joints revealed how they had fitted David's hands. "They're wonderful."
"Come on,"
David said.
"It's not like they're magic or anything."
"No, but they've got something." History, Tally realized. In the city, she'd owned lots of things. Practically anything she wanted came out of the wall. But city things were disposable and replaceable, as interchangeable as the t-shirt, jacket, and shirt combinations of the dorm uniforms. Here in the smoke, objects grew old, carrying their histories with them in dings and scratches and tatters. David chuckled at her and sped up, joining Shay at the front of the pack. When they got to the railroad site, David announced that they had to clear more track, using vibrosaws to cut through the vegetation that had grown up around the metal rails.
"What about the trees?"
Cry asked.
"What about them?"
"Do we have to chop them down?" Tally asked. David shrugged.
"Scrub trees like this aren't good for much, but we won't waste them. We'll take them back to the smoke for burning."
"Burning?" Tally said. The Smokies only usually cut down trees in the valley, not the rest of the mountain. These trees had been growing here for decades, and David wanted to use them just to cook a meal? She looked at Shay for support, but her friend's expression was carefully neutral. She probably agreed, but didn't want to argue with David in front of everyone about how to run his project.
Yes, burning,
he said.
And after we salvage the track, we'll replant. Put a row of useful trees where the railroad used to be.
The 5 others looked at him silently. He spun a saw in his hand, anxious to get started, but aware he didn't have their full support yet.
You know, David,
Croy said,
these trees aren't useless. They protect the underbrush from sunlight, which keeps the soil from eroding. Okay, you win. Instead of planting some other kind of tree, we'll let the forest take back the land. All the crappy scrub and underbrush you want.
But do we have to clear cut them? Asterix asked. David took a slow breath. Clear cutting was the word for what the Rusties had done to the old forests. Felling every tree, killing every living thing, turning entire countries into grazing land. Whole rainforests had been consumed, reduced from millions of interlocking species to a bunch of cows eating grass. A vast web of life traded for cheap hamburgers.
Look, we're not clear cutting. All we're doing is putting out the garbage that the Rusties left behind,
David said.
It just takes a little surgery to do it.
We could chop around the trees, Telly said. Only cut into them where we need to. Like you said, surgery.
Okay, fine.
He chuckled.
Let's see what you think of these trees after you've had to hack a few out of the ground.
He was right.